The good news is Terry's not going anywhere. We've got a panel. We're going to explore this topic more deeply with a partner of ours and one of our best customers. Thank you so much, and go ahead and have a seat. So before we get the panel going, I'm going to start by doing a couple things. First, I'm going to introduce our second panelist, Sal Fuentes. Sal is the CEO of Decision Council. I've known Sal for years. In fact, Decision Council is the agency that we work with who've created all the content for this conference. They helped us figure out the whole story and produce all of the Miller's videos. And all of the content that we're developing with all of you for the marketing kits that we've made available for you to help build your campaigns, they've been our partner on that. So they've been a part of this journey as much as we have been, a great part of our ecosystem. Sal, welcome to the stage. All right. And then I have the honor of actually, the next thing is talking about our Innovations in Marketing Campaign Award. So we had, if you go back please, we had 8 finalists who we selected from the many submissions. We went out to our customers who we've been partnering for many years. Of course, we've extended that partnership with the Marketing Cloud. And we've learned so much from the early adopters of the Marketing Cloud, how they're using data and information and insights to go the extra inch. And all of these stories were inspiring, but we had to pick one. I gave you a little bit of a preview there accidentally. But I'm very proud to announce the winner of this award, Triangle Communications. All right. Cue the video, please.
Triangle Communications is a phone and internet cooperative serving 23,000 square miles in Montana. We have 15,000 access lines, and 11,000 internet members are served off of our copper and fiber plant. The Calix Marketing Cloud unveiled a mass of information that helped us begin achieving our goals. The data has allowed us to create extremely targeted marketing campaigns that has transformed the way that we market. Armed with data, we created targeted marketing campaigns to reach our members more effectively and creative than ever before. We had a strong focus to move the lower speed tier customers to higher speeds to create a better member experience. With custom messaging based on their usage patterns, we were able to achieve this. In the first year of utilizing the Calix Marketing Cloud and our new strategies, we were able to increase our marketing efficiencies by 26%, and we saw a $35,000 increase in revenue per month. We're excited to finally be marketing smarter, and we're looking forward to staying on the cutting edge.
All right, fantastic. So with that, I'd like to introduce our next speaker, who's going to join the panel, Bethany Schnadel, Vice President of Marketing Communications for Triangle Communications. Thank you very much, Bethany. All right, fantastic. So Bethany, why don't we start with you? You're the real expert here, right? You're the one on the firing lines every day. We've been working with you for a couple of years and helping you think through how to use data to build better campaigns. Talk to us a little bit about how you think about creating the campaigns that are going to really help you engage with your customers and build a better experience for them.
Sure, yeah, so I mean, you guys have heard some of the success we've had. We've also had a lot of failures. You know, you get all this data in the Marketing Cloud, and I'm sure many of you guys are in the position we were in, where it's like, okay, I've got all this data, now what do I do? Where do I start? Because it's a little overwhelming. And so we started with, you know, one widget at a time, one data set at a time, and we started with a Netflix promo, you know, targeting our streamers. And we saw a huge success. You know, we had less than a 3-month payback on a direct mailer where all we did was send the mailer. We didn't follow up with the customer. We did nothing but design the mailer and sent it out. You know, we were so excited. We're like, oh, we've totally got this. We know how to be data-driven marketers. Next thing we did is we did a gaming postcard. We were expecting the same 3-month return, and it was an absolute flop. I think we had like 2 people upgrade. And so then we had to go back to the drawing boards and say, okay, why did the streaming one work, but the gaming one didn't? And we decided it's because the gamers are the kids, and the kids don't control the pocketbook. The parents are the ones who control those purse strings, versus when we targeted the streamers, the parents are also streaming. And so we've taken a lot of risks along the way and tried new things, and we've kind of decided as our marketing group, it's okay if we take a risk, if it fails, as long as we don't do it again. And so that was been our big thing is, let's just try it, one piece of data at a time, move forward, try to figure out how to resonate with that member and what our messaging is going to be, where it's going to target that member, and the member is going to be like, oh yeah, that's me, or I need that service. So we've had a lot of failures along the way, and we've also had a lot of successes.
All right. Well, it's good to hear that you're learning. And, I know, Sal, you've certainly put a lot of campaigns in market and helped customers put a lot of campaigns in market. I'm sure they all worked. You never had a failure. But as you've worked with us and all of our customers who've taken advantage of a lot of the content that we've developed and helped them think through their go-to-market, how do you think about this idea of learning and coming together and building these concepts? As Bethany said, they've had successes, they've had failures. How do you think about building campaigns that really connect and resonate?
It's interesting because I don't want to oversimplify it, but one size doesn't fit all.
Yeah.
And I think you were talking about this at the inch level. I think what you have to look at when we developed the campaigns for Calix was we looked at use cases. The way you look at an affluent community with aging parents, you're going to focus on safety and security. You look at young parents and you're like, okay, I've got an entertainment piece there. I want to look at streaming content. I think knowing your communities, and since you get to serve, many of you here get to serve smaller communities, you can get richer with the data. And when we developed the campaign, we really wanted to say, okay, let's give our partners multiple use cases, and then you apply where appropriate.
Fantastic. So, Terry, on the topic of data, you talked about curiosity and data. How can our customers start to think about using subscriber data and be curious and think about applying that? How should they think about using that to build a tighter relationship that's enduring?
Well, I agree with Bethany. I think the trick is to go through the data and try and find your greatest area of opportunity. In other words, data can be very overwhelming. You can get so much of it, you don't know what to do with it. So what I say always, my belief is, look for your greatest area of opportunity. Look for things that you can achieve, without a huge expenditure, things that are completely in your control. Try and be the most relevant you can to the biggest area of opportunity that's presented in front of you. Because what I see with a lot of our clients over the years is they'll take on too much. And then they'll fail, and then they'll get gun shy. And I always say, incrementally, let's look at what our greatest area of opportunity is.
Yeah, a lot of people talk about data lakes and data oceans. You can drown in an ocean if you don't actually know how to swim. So that's great. Now, data, using it is a wonderful tool. I know there's also a lot of talk about the downside of using data. There's a lot in the press about the misuse of data. Bethany, you're an actual practitioner here, right? The rest of us are sitting here as pundits thinking about this. And how do you think about making sure your customers are 100% comfortable with how you're using data and why you're using data that pertains to them and their experience?
So the first thing that we did when we started using this targeted data is we had a lot of conversations with our customer experience reps on how to approach the customer, how to talk to the member. Because we didn't want to, pick up the phone and say, hey, John Smith, do you know you've maxed out your speed 600 times in the last 30 days and you need to upgrade your speed? And so we've approached it with our members as talking to the members about the experience. How is this experience affecting you? If we're talking to somebody who we see does a lot of streaming and is also maxing out their speed, we might start with a leading question of, hey, do you stream content on the internet? Do you watch Netflix or Hulu? And when they say yes, oh, does it occasionally stop on you or buffer? And making sure we're using words that the customer understands. We're not using technical terms. And so we really tried to build that relationship with the member by really trying to not make them feel like we're big brother, but we're there to help them. And so we, in November of last year, was the first time we had ever cold called a member. In the history of Triangle, almost 75 years, we had never picked up the phone and called a customer without them calling us first. And so that was a huge shift for us of not only using that data, but then talking to the member about the data. We weren't waiting for them to call. We were trying to be more proactive. We had a cable company come in and overbuild 2 of our exchanges. And so those were like the first priority exchanges. That's where we started our phone calls of, trying to get customers into contracts that we just developed to compete against the cable company. And, calling those customers for the first time ever and also trying to get them to sign a 2-year contract, that was a tough thing for our customer experience reps to start doing. And so that's why we really focused on the experience. And they felt better about calling those members, and they weren't just trying to upsell them or get them locked in a contract. They were trying to make them have a better experience with us and like our company better because they now had a better service. So we really tried to make sure we didn't approach it as a big brother, but more of the member experience.
So Terry, that's an interesting little balancing point there. Marketing, that actually sounded more like customer service,
Yes.
right? And you talked about the importance. Can you talk a little bit about how the lines kind of blur between marketing and a customer service activity, and how should people think about really looking at those two things holistically as a continuum of engagement?
Again, I love what Bethany was saying. So I of course have the internet at home. I live in a smart home. No one ever talks to me. I never get any calls like that. Nobody wants to know what I need or what. I never get any calls, and I would love to get a call like that to say, Terry, we noticed this is your usage, or what can we do to enhance that? How do you use your system, in your home or in your. I never get that. So I'm saying to you, when you ask that question, Matt, is ask questions. And I think the blurring of the lines is, if you're calling me to really try and enhance my life, I will give you information. I'm not going to hoard it. If you say to me, here's why we need this information. If you're asking my permission for information because you want to try and genuinely want to try and enhance my life, I'm going to give it all to you. So why wouldn't you as a company take advantage of that, is my thought.
Interesting. So Sal, I know you work with a lot of companies in a lot of industries, and some have had great success as you've worked with them, working through how to use data to be effective. Some have had less success. Share a couple of the examples of customers that you've worked with as you've helped them build campaigns who've been successful and maybe a little less successful.
Cheryl, one of your slides was the best marketers are curious, and I really believe the best data marketers are curious. I can't name the cable company, particularly since the lobbying body's here. But will I say, they were looking to target a community. The community's #1 consumption was telenovelas and Univision. And they said, great, we're going to sponsor the World Cup media sites. And so, hey, we're going to go out and do that. And they did it entirely in English, right? And it was like, oh, you had it right. You were that close.
Go the extra inch.
Just go that extra inch.
Translate it.
It's like, don't! Right? So the next one's actually somebody how many of you are Spotify members? You mentioned Spotify. Spotify's probably better at this than anybody I've ever met. So we got to work with them for 2 years, and they would put up billboards in specific communities. They market very locally. And it would say, hey, Brooklyn, thank you for streaming Justin Bieber 1,200 times. Because it turns out that really hipster, anti-establishment Brooklyn, their #1 artist was Justin Bieber last year. The second thing they do is, I don't know how many of you get their playlist, but every week they do a personalized playlist of music you might like that you've never listened to. They've looked at your listening pattern, and they're like, listen, we don't want to give you something you can play for yourself. Here's 10 things we think you might like. And
I love that.
It's one of the best features. So there's a way to use data, and you can start small, right? If you're curious about data, test out a security app, right? The data will tell you just the age of your targets, your communities, content preferences. There's a lot of little things you can do just to start with that.
Fantastic. So certainly everyone knows Spotify, and they've had some amazing results. And Bethany, I know you've been working with a lot of data in the Calix Marketing Cloud over the last year plus. Certainly, we love to talk about your successes. Michael talks about you every day or every week. He's very excited. We all are. I'd love to hear more about how are you using that data, and what kind of results are you seeing based on moving from a non-data-driven approach to engaging with your customers and subscribers to a data-driven approach?
So every campaign that we do, when I took over the marketing department like about 2 years ago, we didn't have a lot of structure. There wasn't set campaigns, there wasn't campaign cycles. So the first thing we kind of did is we decided if we're going to use data-driven marketing, we need to have a game plan. So we worked with a consultant and we set a plan for the year of these are going to be our quarter dates. We switched to quarterly campaigns. And then each quarter when we're setting whatever our promotion's going to be, we looked at the data to try and decide what should we target, what group should we target, and then what promotion would work well with that target group. And so a lot of it was taking risks, taking assumptions as far as the promotions. When I took over, our average promotion value was $200. And so we decided now that we're going to be more targeted and we're not just broadcasting at over 23,000 square miles, we cut the promotion value down to $100. So that was a risk we decided to take to decide, can we increase our marketing efficiency and also cut our promotion value down, get members to sign up? We switched to the first promotion that we did where we actually used our data and we picked the Netflix promo. We had over 600 members upgrade their speed for that promotion in that first quarter, which the previous year we had 684 promotions taken. So in one quarter, we almost surpassed our promotions taken the entire previous year. So far this year, we have had 2.5 times the take rate of last year on our promotions. Just really trying to do that targeted group, send it to the specific people that we've identified in the marketing cloud that would be a good people that, good test group of, what, this is gonna benefit you, this is gonna resonate with you. And so instead of just sending out postcards, EDDMs to, our entire 23,000 square mile service area, we now send maybe 700 to 800 postcards out a quarter. And before we were spending, $8,000 on EDDMs, and now we're spending maybe $700 on them, but we're getting that return because we've made our promotion match the target group, and we've made our messaging match that target group. And we do get some people outside of those set target groups because they've seen that message and also resonated with them, but it wasn't that core group that we were really trying to focus on. Because when you have such a diverse service area, such a large service area, you can't make one message that's going to meet everybody's needs. And so we just try to strategically decide, this is the group we're going to focus on this quarter. Next quarter, we're going to do this group. And so we really try to be a lot more structured with what we do.
That's great. Spend a lot less, make a lot more. I think that's a value prop we can all get behind. I certainly can. So, Sal, any thoughts on how other members of our audience can start to think about that same sort of targeted messaging and how they can actually drive better results?
Yeah, I think step one is segmentation. It's probably the best thing you can do, especially when you serve specific geos, right? Is if you're in a homogeneous population, then look at age segmentation, content consumption behaviors, and take a look at that. If you're in a multicultural situation, right, you can look at content consumption a little bit more precisely. What's beautiful now is you really can isolate your messages to specific audiences in a very easy way. Particularly if on retention programs, because you have the data. The data came up earlier. You can use data more aggressively with your existing customers. You have permission-based marketing there, so you can do a lot more around the data. It's in new customer acquisition where you have to be sensitive because the laws are now starting to protect how much data you can get from Facebook and Google. And if any of you work with Facebook and Google, they've cut way back on the amount of data they're actually willing to give you in the profile now. So you have to do a lot more research to target better. But I think segmentation, step one, and I think number two is messaging catered to those specific segments.
Absolutely. So just to close out, Terry, one of the downsides of a lot of the technology that's available and all of the data is, quite frankly, we can do a lot more in terms of outreach. And you actually said something that resonated with me about cutting through the noise. So what last pieces of advice could you offer to the audience around cutting through the noise and making sure that you're not just adding to the cacophony?
Creativity in your messaging, when it gets right down to it, is when you decide on your message, try and package that in the most creative, unexpected way possible. Because if we're all seeing, 6,000, 7,000 commercial messages a day, which is conservative, by the way, how many ads do you remember from yesterday? Think about how much marketing money was wasted yesterday because there wasn't enough creativity in the messaging. And I would say what you heard Sal and Bethany say today is be relevant, be curious, parse through the data, try and find the most motivating, interesting ways you can enhance your customers' experience with you, and then transform that into marketing. And I always say customer service is marketing. Because nothing says more about your company than the way you treat your customers.
Absolutely. That's fantastic. Now, the good news is I know everyone here can remember every message they heard yesterday because they were here at the conference. So,
The day before yesterday.
oh, the day before yesterday. Thank you with that. So with that, we've reached the end of our time. I want to thank our panelists so much for joining us. And the key is Terry's going to be available 1 o'clock. You can spend more time with him. I'm sure all of you will be excited to do that. At 1 o'clock, you can go to his breakout session and continue the dialogue, because connecting with your subscribers at a very intimate level is the only way you're going to be able to take the technology we've talked about and seize that role in the center of their lives. So thank you very much.